We have seen enough examples of generative systems in this course to understand the value of developing and applying generative algorithms to creative tasks. Artists and researchers have a host of reasons to engage in these practices. However, be it out of skepticism or curiosity, there are also many reasons to want to evaluate generative systems. How can we determine how successful a system is at achieving a creative task automatically? The question of evaluating generative systems is complex. There are a wide diversity of computationally creative systems. They range from generative art pieces, some with deliberately specific aesthetics, to very generic systems that come from the research on computational creativity. These cannot all be evaluated the same way. Systems also vary in their level of generativity. At one end, we have purely reactive, non-generative systems like regular software, which does nothing without you clicking somewhere. At the other end of the spectrum, we have completely autonomous systems. However, while artists and researchers often consider the purely generative case, it is clear that most of the real-world deployment of these systems will be through interactive systems integrated to the workflow of their users. Interactive or mixed initiative systems simply add to the challenge of the task of evaluation, since the interface and the interaction design needs to be evaluated, and the creative product of the system depends to various degrees on its user. Nonetheless, we distinguish 7 types of evaluation listed here. First, we have the system's authors. Then, there are users, friends, peers, and experts. There is the audience, if the system reaches the audience, the media, if the system reaches the media, peer reviewing, curation, and juries. There are theoretical and analytical measures, and finally, empirical studies. Here, we have 2 classes of evaluations: informal evaluation and formal evaluation. With informal evaluation, we mean that no established research methodology has been used. Of the groups of evaluators we listed here, we usually consider the authors, users, and audience to be informal evaluators. And then we have formal evaluations in the sense of using an established research methodology. We usually consider the media, peer reviewers, and juries, and evaluation with theoretical or empirical studies to be more formal evaluations. In this lesson, we will look at informal methods. We will look at formal methods in consequent lessons. The first evaluator of the system's output or behavior is usually its author or authors. The artists, designers, and computer scientists who imagine, create, and develop generative systems are typically the first audience. They have an intimate knowledge of the system because they are the ones iterating designs, doing the testing, and doing the debugging. They also have expectations about the system and eventually get to see how the system performs at its creative task. Authors decide when and if the system is ready, when the work on the system is over, and if it is worth making it public or not. The relationship between the author and their work is complex. The author can iterate, modify, or even censor the system. We can think of evaluation by the author as being composed of the following elements. First, there is the moment when the author decides that the work is ready. Otherwise, it means that the evaluation was negative, maybe because the system was not working to the liking of its author. Another element of the author's evaluation is their opinion of the system, and this has to be related to their intention. The intention of a computational creativity research project on novelty search, for example, is very different than that of an artist preparing an exhibition. Even in the case of aesthetic or other disagreements, some authors have been known to respect the autonomy of their system. Before computer systems with aleatoric art, authors also sometimes choose to respect the autonomy of the system instead of imposing their own preferences on its productions. With research on computational creativity, negative results, that is, unsuccessful systems, are often worth publishing and talking about, because we learn from them. Typically, the author is positively biased toward the system, being its originator, although the author can also be its toughest critic, being too close to the system to see its merit. The next group that gets to evaluate the system in informal ways and maybe influence its authors are friends, colleagues, beta users, and peers, be they novice or experts, who will give their friendly or professional opinion and feedback to the author. What is interesting with this group is that it is often mobilized before the system or its results get released publicly. This means that there is still a chance for this feedback to change the author's perspective and possibly for the system to be modified as a result. Then, if the system is made public, its public reception provides another set of informal but important evaluative data. The system or artifact's popularity expresses itself in ticket sales, in concerts, album sales, number of downloads, number of views, market value for collectors, etc. Both for computer-assisted creativity software and for generative artworks, this access to the market is really dependent on an array of factors ranging from intentions of the authors to marketing and communication factors, or even to global economical and cultural contexts. The ability of researchers in computational creativity or independent artists to reach a wide public with their latest research will lag behind the effort of giant corporations like Google, IBM, Microsoft, Sony, Facebook, or even large video game companies, which are now on board with generative art and computational creativity. Part of this public reaction are the media. Critics, journalists, software reviewers, bloggers, and other commentators have a critical role in the way they report and portray generative systems. Artificial intelligence and machine learning have become trendy topics of general importance, and more attention is brought to the creative artificial intelligence as it is expressed in generative art and computational creativity. The media act as the stomach that can digest the work into our culture or shadow it. But the media need narrative and like the sensational. We will come back to the fears and excitement that artificial intelligence and computational creativity provoke in our last session of this course. Finally, the last group that provides informal evaluation data are curators, peer reviewers, and jury members. These groups get to select which piece or system will be presented in a conference, concert, festival, or exhibition, or who decide which project will be funded, or which paper will be presented in a conference or published in a journal. Usually, these are experts in the area, and they will also provide valuable feedback to the authors. There are a number of awards, prizes, and competitions that concentrate on generative art and computational creativity. There are also a few core conferences and many tangential conferences. All of these functions in a more or less principled way, and while no research method is applied per se, a clear methodology is often used. In a way, these are semi-formal evaluations. Given the scope of the course, it is impossible to even start naming them here, but we have added a list of names and links in the resource section. This concludes a brief survey of the informal dimensions of evaluation. As everyone can understand, just because they are informal does not mean they are not consequential or important.